How is it Thursday again? And I'm saying this when we didn't even bowl last week. Wait, did we bowl last week? We did bowl last week. I don't even know. Calendars, man. Overrated. So, I'm jealous, Luke. I'm jealous. You're drinking a Spindrift. I realized this morning I'm out and I haven't had a chance to go to the store yet. So, dang it. So it goes. Anyways, welcome one and all to another week of Luke and I talking about how things are going in Scratch League this year. Spoiler alert, they are continuing to go well. As you can see by standings on the screen right now, we were able to extend our lead a little bit over second, and I think we extended over Trevor's team. Over Trevor's team. Russ's team kept even with us, but they're 50 back. They're 60 back. So continuing to plunk along. So another pretty solid week overall, I feel like.
Yeah.
You made a run at 300, which is pretty cool. And then I think just didn't come off your hand the right way. But.
Yeah, I keep getting a little tight and short arm, and I've had a couple times now that I've had the front 10 and I just
and then you just pull a Jerry essentially.
Yeah.
Got to make those short arm jokes. I was messing around with him a little bit. I crossed him on Sunday at Royal Crest for doubles, and was giving him a little bit of flack about that, but
yeah,
all in good fun. It was. What was the story for you last? Oh yeah, last week everything was just hooking a ton, and it took you a bit to get dialed in, right?
Yeah, that first game I had I had the front four, and then stuff just started checking like crazy. And so I think, I don't know if I had a couple opens, but I definitely had one open, and then I had several spares, and I ended up striking out. And then I had the front 10, and then so after that, everything was kind of okay. But yeah, the pair just generally hooked a lot.
Yeah.
And Jaden had something. She was just off. I think she hadn't eaten all day, and so she was a little wobbly and shaky coming into it, and so she was just feeling off. So I think that's really
it was just her feel hasn't been the greatest the last 2 or 3 weeks. So it's just kind of stuff is getting a little out of sync in general for her, I feel like.
Yeah,
but I mean, she's a solid bowler. I'm sure she'll figure it out. And she shot 530 and we took 21 points. So. Okay.
Well, there's been several times where she's kind of held us up too.
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of continuing to be a team effort. I feel like Noah quietly bowled an awesome set. I mean, 250 first game from the 2-hole. That's a good spot to be in. But I mean, it was just kept his nose clean, stayed out of trouble, and I think he threw his turmoil solid all night, the turmoil 2 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think he threw his, and the lanes were actually dry enough to where it looked better.
Yeah.
So I think it's just he's had he's got some old equipment that he's had for a really long time, and so if the lanes are a little bit wetter, they can be a little lazy. But when he does have the friction for them, they look pretty good.
Yeah, and that was kind of the exact situation he was in. It was like, even we were talking at the end of game 2, is like, he had a few shots that didn't quite go through the pins, right? And it's like, I mean, we could look at the parallax, but it hasn't struck in a month. So let's just kind of, find a way to knock the pins down and keep the nose clean game 4. And, at that point, I was thinking more about his head-to-head series against Baton, who was absent. I think he was at an NBA game last weekend.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like I was saying that we were at the time I said that we were up by 60 and 50, so we're up by 120 on set, and I'm just thinking like, okay, let's just keep your nose clean, make sure you get series above all else, and but it is what it is. And I mean, Norm had, what was it, front 9 and then chopped to 6'10" in the 10th, I believe, for 266. And then a couple of really solid games from Hawes and Crouch, and that made series a lot more interesting than we thought it was going to be. So.
Yeah, we kind of figured that, and it's not that we didn't expect that they were going to put together a game. It's just that we didn't expect that the distance. We thought 120 should be fairly easy for us to cover.
120, and you and I were, and we were all kind of. I mean, it felt like a week of close, but just not quite there enough to get the hits for Jaden as much as anything else. So it was kind of, figuring that Jaden might get another hit game 3. You're obviously coming off of a game of front 10 and you're alone on the left side. And I felt like I was making a ball change into something that was going to give me a little better look. And so it was just kind of a combination of all that. I mean, 868 is not a bad game at all, regardless of what your team is in this league. But,
yeah,
I mean, they bowled especially with the 210 absent, they shot almost 960. That's a really good game from them, game 3. And so we kind of
So and that's
hung on by the skin of our teeth, essentially.
That's fairly typical for their team too. They've been shooting around. I mean, because they shot 2,700 basically, and that's they've been putting up some big numbers. And again, we just really outbowled them the first 2 games, and then that last game it was just barely hanging on. And of course, you don't expect we're not going to have 150 out of Jaden again, and so I think that made it a little artificially closer than it was or would have been otherwise. But still, at the same time, the stuff like that's just going to happen, and we were just able to absorb it and work around it. And we've been kind of doing that all year. It seems like we haven't had just like we've had 1 or 2 nights where it's been like clean for everybody. Yeah. Like I think that week that Noah and I both shot 750 and Jaden shot 690, and I can't remember what you shot, but it was 28 something. We almost shot 2,900.
Yeah, it was 2880. Which week was that? I'm checking right now. I want to say that was like week 7, maybe. Let's see.
But it kind of seems like we haven't had one of those super clean, or other than just a couple times, we haven't had like super clean nights where everybody's on. It's just, but that's rarely going to happen. You're just not going to have everybody firing all cylinders every single week. But we're just built to absorb that a little bit better, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. It was. I think you're thinking of week 9. I had 759. You had 751. Noah had 749. Jaden had 629.
Oh, okay. So
yes. 2888.
Even then, we just haven't had a night where absolutely every single person is just firing all cylinders.
Pretty much, yeah. I think I'm looking at our week by week. I think our worst of the year was actually week 1. That was our worst week of the season by total pinfall, and that was 25-55. So,
because it's just you were the only one that was there.
Yeah, basically. that was when I shot 825, and I think high set otherwise on the pair was like 650.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is that we got 20 something that night just because we didn't really. You were the only person that bowled well on that pair. I think Rob shot 230 or 240 something, or maybe it was like 250 the last game. But
let's take a look. I wonder if I can cross-reference it this way. Rob went 220, 226, 259, 182 for 665. And then, Warren shot 680. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Warren.
That was a really good night from him.
Destroyed me.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway. It was a solid night for you of just kind of, I guess, to bring it back and talk about what we're actually talking about here. It was a solid night from you. I think we thought you were a lot closer at the end of practice than you actually were at like 7 frames into game 1. Yeah. That's just kind of the rug got pulled out from under your feet a little bit. For me, it wasn't my best executed night, but I think I played the lanes smart enough that I was able to just get good ball reaction and knock the pins down. So game 1 was, I think, 2 7-pins and a 10-pin for 268. And then I kind of started to lose ball reaction a little bit. I just got a couple right and thumbed them a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, I think, a 3-6-7 somehow. And then double tap the 6-pin without hitting the 3-pin on the spare, which makes even less sense.
Yeah.
And so ground out 230 and then went like, what was it, 10-pin spare, double, 2-8-10, get the 2-pin sheet for 253. Mm-hmm. And yeah, after that 2-8-10, it was a little kind of mental exercise for me of like, okay, I'm not letting this game get away from me. Let's just buckle down and make good shots. And ended up finishing out with the back 8. And I think how the math works out, I think I needed first hit to
you needed series. The first hit in the 10th to get series.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was all the way down to the very last.
Yeah.
Had to get it done. And actually,
Norm opening gave us a huge shot at that. Yeah.
And then Jason he could have doubled to at least get his point the last game.
If Jason because Jason missed on Jason went like strike 2-pin spare, I think, or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
It's like if he gets second hit, that makes me have to double for the team set, and it gets him the third game point off of it.
Yeah, because he would have had the game. I think we still get set. We still would have squeaked it out, but you would have had to have that second hit too.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good question. I think it depends a little bit week to week. It also depends on what ball I'm throwing and kind of because different balls have different strengths and weaknesses and usage ranges. Like this last week, I was throwing my pin down top speed for the first 2 games, which that ball tends to like slightly kind of shallower angles, kind of keep it in front of me a little bit more. So if the lane, if we're bowling a team like, especially with how Crouch plays the lanes, he was actually right of me all night. And so that kind of forced me to get a little further left than I expected. And so that put me in a position of, chasing it a little bit more. But then as I kept having to chase it, my top speed was kind of running out of gas a little bit and not able to quite make the corner well enough. And so at that point, I went from a pin down top speed to a pin up ethos to help get the corners out. But the top speed is a ball that's a little more like when it's good, it's really good, but when it's not. Versus there have been quite a few nights this year where I've been able to throw my NV Tour all 3 games, even as I'm moving like 2+ arrows with my eyes over a course of a 3-game set. And so it depends a little bit. I've been trying to be a little slower to pull the trigger on ball changes and get better at using physical tricks to kind of extend the usage range of a ball. That's something I've been kind of trying to learn a lot from watching Luke on the left side and also from watching guys like Russ Wilson and Jay Fattrell, because they're both incredibly good on the right side at taking one ball and making it work long past when I would think like, okay, that ball's done.
Yeah, they typically start whatever ball they start with, they finish with. It's very, very odd to see them change balls.
Yep. Now, when I crossed with Russ for doubles up at the Tomsu last month, and he literally like he wasn't even carrying a bag or backpack or anything with him between pairs. It was just, or he might have had his backpack with him, but it was literally backpack and one ball. And it was like he had to remember where he left his other equipment at the end of qualifying.
Yeah.
And he led qualifying. 6 games of 8 bowlers to a pair. And he threw one ball and led qualifying. It's kind of, it's just like I give up. I'm never going to be that good. I quit. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question a little bit. And yes, the NV Tour is probably one of my favorite balls of all time at this point. Like, even if it's not the play, it's close enough that I can figure out what the play is, especially on house shots. So it's locked. Like when I'm building a bag for a tournament, that and plastic are the first balls that go in. Just not much else to say. It is that good. So yeah. Yeah, it was just in top speed into if you pin down top speed into my pinup ethos last week and worked very well. It was one of those kind of pretty much all of my misses were my fault, and I knew them pretty quick that were my fault. So it even though my physical execution wasn't the best, I still shot a really solid set, and actually everybody who was kind of chasing me for on the high average list, I beat most of them by quite a bit. So I actually extended my gap a little bit on pretty much everybody else. So that was kind of big for holding on to, for kind of solidifying my position on the average chart. And Luke, you're up to 11th actually for on the average chart at the almost at the halfway point. So
yeah, I've literally shot between my last solid month or last 4 weeks have been between 731 and 739. So
yeah, you're Mr. 730, I guess.
Yeah, you just pencil me in for 730 and
735, 740, 731, 739. That's
I will keep taking that.
Yeah, if you keep shooting that, I will be a happy man.
Yeah. So and I didn't jinx myself. We'll see how long I can go with that without jinxing myself on the 7 pins. Now I missed a million of them on Friday, but
that's Friday.
Yeah. Friday's Friday. So as long as I make them on Thursday, that's all that matters. I was 1 for 1 last week.
As soon as you 7 pinned, I was like,
I thought about it too, but I'm like, well, I have to make it now because I can't do this. So
if you didn't make it, I was going to make sure you weren't going to punch me, and then I was going to give you shit about it.
Which is actually somewhat helpful because the whole kind of secret for me making those is to not stand there and think too much about it. It just line myself up with it and then just shove it.
Just chuck it straight at the 7 pin.
Shove it and think about it later. So
that's not a bad idea, honestly.
So, all right, looking at this week, the interesting wrinkle here is going to be that John Hardman has been out and Patton's been subbing for him the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And Patton has a couple of new hips.
Yeah.
And
three new hips, technically.
Yeah.
Because he got a hip replaced, and then that didn't take, so he had to get the hip replaced again, and then he got the other hip replaced. So he's like the $7 million man at this point or something.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that's just he's 55-ish and he just knows what he's doing. He's been a action bowler forever. And so he just knows what he's doing.
Completely unflappable up here.
So he's always a threat. Nathan puts it right down the side. Generally stays out of trouble. Doesn't have the highest average, but again, if you look at his set last week, 2-0, 2-0, 180.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a Jaden.
Yeah, he's not going to hurt you, and he's potential
Jaden with
to
a
go
beard. Jaden
higher.
with a beard. There we go.
Yeah. Colfax is one of the higher average 3 bowlers in the league too.
Yeah.
And then Zach is up in the top.
Zach is Zach. He's like 7th, I think.
So
he's 5th right now. 233.69.
Yeah, I was gonna say Zach's actually going to be one of the new testers on the channel. I've mentioned this a couple times on the breakdown pair, but we're actually going to start with Sublime because Angel and I didn't get one of those and he did. And so we're just going to go on ahead and we got to go film Sunday anyway. So we're going to get him on there. So
sweet. It's exciting. You're getting a high rev righty tester that actually throws it good.
Yeah. So,
yeah. No other comments at this time, but yeah, no. Zach's a phenomenal bowler. I think you mentioned this on the breakdown pair last night, but he's got an ITC with Wichita State. He's got a Team Eagle with Prather and Bowers. He's got, I think, 2 300s in nationals.
He shot 300 with us in 2021. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah, I know he has at least one. I don't remember if it's more than that, but I mean, incredibly accomplished bowler. Bowls a ton of regionals and does very well at those. I think he led the tour of Kansas City for the points list last year, actually. So, phenomenal bowler. He's a threat on anything. And I mean, 660 last week. I'm not expecting him to replicate that again.
Yeah. And, these other guys, they just, they're down farther. I think it's just that they got off to kind of a rough start and they've been taking everybody's. Do they have a pins against?
Not
I
on
don't
the
know.
standings sheet. I need to.
Okay.
I think that's my goal for next week is to have some sort of pins against figured out for this, so
Well,
that
and
I
see,
can
that's
pull
the
up a
other
team
thing
and
that
look at their matches.
Keeler's team's gone through too. It's just they keep taking everybody's best shot, and I think that the weeks that John was able to be there, his averages down, and I think it's just they're taking everybody's best shot, and they've got a couple 2-0s on there, and so it's just it's not like they haven't been in games or bowling well. Flip back over to the standing sheet and let's look at their total pins and their games won and
36,405, and they're 19 and 23 game count.
So actually, that's kind of funny. Jennings, Team Ottawa has 35. So Zach's team has 500 more pins than they do.
We're just getting them at the wrong times.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And if we just look at like Keeler's team, 2650 to their 2640. Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things that 2640, if you're looking up and down, that would have beat Kreitzer, that would have beat Johnny, that would have beat Nick. Yeah. That would have beat Rob, that would have beat Jerry, that would have beat
everybody except us, Russ, Crouch. That's pretty much
Russ
it.
And Crouch. I mean, they would have, they would have beat anybody else with that set. And so I think that's just what's been happening to them every week. And I think that this is one of the, again, it's not saying that any, we can't look at their spot on the standings list. I don't think.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that. Is like, I'm much more looking for, especially for a match like this where we know the overall talent level and like mental ability of the guys on this team is like, they're in 14th place. They could just as easily be in 4th place right now.
Yeah, Zach drafted a really good team, honestly, because John Hardman's been a captain before. He's 220-ish on paper. Colfax, you can put him in for that. Zach, Zach's going to do what he's going to do. So realistically, they have a somewhat similar-ish team to us. He got some. I think he drafted really well, and I think his was one. I don't know if we would have talked about it. I don't think I would have put his team necessarily in the top 3 or top 5, but they're,
I knew it was in the range of outcomes.
Yeah, they were going to be up near the top. Period. Just based on draft quality and.
Yeah, exactly.
So, because if we look at this, okay, I guess the book averages were whatever, but Patton had a good. He's subbed a couple weeks, and he had a good week last week. So
yeah, I gotta see what his actual average is. Let's see, standing sheets. Actually, wait, I'll go over here. Patton 1345 for 6. So that's what, 220? Yeah, 220ish. So that's a little dangerous, which that means he's gone 647-0, and like his ball roll and like the way he approaches things, he's better once they get a little dirty rather than when they're fresh, which I think is working out well for bowling with the rest of this team because Zach tends to hook it quite a bit, and so they do get a little choppy.
Colfax slow hooks it too.
Yeah. He hasn't been hooked. Colfax has been playing straighter this year, but he can loop it if he wants to.
Yeah, well, we'll see what actually happens there, but I mean, if things kind of go according to how they've been going, you're going to be deeper with Colfax and Zach. Zach's probably going to be inside of you, actually.
Yeah, he's been getting left really quick using his TNT infused quite a bit that I've noticed. So especially with us being we're on 11 and 12 this week. And we're in front of the door, and it's a drier day today, not super humid. So I'm expecting this pair to hook quite a bit tonight, realistically speaking. Which is a nice little segue into actually looking at the pair. So 11 and 12 has fallen all the way. It was
high five.
It was like third highest average, or second or third highest pair average in the league at the very start of the year. And now it's fallen to third lowest, which is kind of crazy. So league average is holding right about 215-ish, and the pair average for 11 and 12 is 213.75. Last time on this pair, I think was the first night I threw my pin down top speed in Medlin, and just had a great ball reaction. Then it's kind of got away from me a little bit. Game 3, I think you had another awesome set, obviously, and
yeah, it was
just kind of chunked away.
Yeah, it's just kind of the same thing I've been doing the last several weeks.
Yeah. And then Zach's team last saw this pair week 2 against Trevor. And that was one of the weeks that Trevor's team bowled really well. I mean, 26-90, you take 12 points. That's just a tough break for them.
That's rough.
Yeah, that's super rough. But yeah, I expect it to be a little choppy, but I'm going to, like, my plan for tonight is just kind of, some of the stuff you and I have been talking about offline of just keeping everything a little more streamlined and static, essentially, in my downswing and release plane, and just kind of keeping it in front of me, keeping things a little simpler, not trying to overcomplicate things from a ball reaction perspective. That's my entire plan for tonight. I'm probably going to take the same bag as what I've been taking. So it'll be Envy Tour, my pin down top speed, the Ethos, and then I haven't decided whether the last ball is going to be my Fireball or my Cobalt, but it's going to be one of those two. And then plastic, and just hit the pocket a bunch, and whatever happens, happens. So that's my plan for tonight. I'm going to try to stay right if I can, but it's just a question of whether or not the lanes give that to me on the fresh, and that'll kind of dictate the transition plan from there. So, and then another week of you being all alone. So,
yeah, and I don't have any plans to. I'm still going to take 5, but I mean, if anything, if I was ever going to throw a different ball, last week would have been the week, because it was just hooking off the planet. And I tried literally everything else that I brought in practice, and it just I 8-10'd with and flip it. So it was basically 7-9 with the Phase G. The one time I threw that, and then that was pretty funny. When you did that in practice. Was too sharp, and kind of the same thing with the DNA. And so it was just, and ended up, I just needed to be a little bit softer with my hand, play the middle of the lane a little bit more, fade it more, don't get it out there quite so early with the Summit. And that ended up working out. And so it's really just the Summit owns this building on the left side. It just owns, period. Eric Moore got one of them too, and he shot 770 last week. And so it just owns this building. There's really no reason for me to even try to use anything else or think about anything else. Yeah. Because if I'm at the point where the Summit's not looking good, nothing else is probably going to look much better. I might swap out the Phase G or the Infused for the Phase Tour, because it's on a traction level with the Summit, but it's a little different shape. Yeah, it's a little different shape. And so if I do need that traction level, but the Summit's being flat or whatever else, I might have actually used it last week, which it wouldn't have ended up being better than 7. It probably would have ended up about the same. I think if you throw that on the fresh, it gets you a few more pins game 1, but I'm not sure you go 520 the back 2 with it. No, probably not. Time. So it just Summit, figure out whatever I need to do with it, and just go. Yeah. So that makes sense. Clean and simple. No muss, no fuss. So Are we going to get out of here in under 30 minutes? Yeah, I think so. I think we pretty well let's wrap. Let's turn off the stream right now. We're done. Sign off. Yeah, I think this is pretty well the thing. I think it's another. This feels like a trap week. This feels like, but it looks like a week where we're going to have to show up, and it depends on if Patton is bowling again, or if John is going to be there, and it really, it depends on that. If that pair is acting the way it's been acting, if it's going to hold some scores down, and it really depends on how they break down too. So. Yeah, there's a lot of rev rate on the pair though, but there's really only 3 of you with rev rate, because Tommy doesn't really rev it up if he's there. If John's there, he doesn't rev it up. Yeah. And then it'll get a little choppy, but I don't think it's going to blow open. So. Yeah, I don't think it's going to do anything crazy. And you guys are fairly segmented away from each other. You've got it depends on where Colfax plays too, but he's either going to be second arrow or he's going to be fourth arrow. Colfax doesn't have a whole lot of in between there. He's either going straight up or he's just hooking it. And Zach is always hooking it. So we'll have to see how they break down, but I think it's another one of those 20 and
If
20
we can
to
get
25 point weeks.
Yeah, if we can, because we bowl Trevor's team next week and then Russ's team the week after. And so with how things are in the standings is like if we can get out with like 50 in the next 3 weeks, I think we're golden pretty much. So.
Yeah, we just need, if nothing else, we just need to keep our heads above water. And if somehow we can get away with 20 or 25 points, it won't lock it up, but it'll make it a whole lot more.
It'll be pretty close.
The last couple weeks.
Yeah, for sure. So preference for surface pads. Quick question for Mike Roble before we sign off. I hope I pronounced your last name right. On a spinner, I personally use Sierra pads. I feel like they hold up better for wet sanding use than Abralons. And then for hand sanding, I have some CTD True Cuts that I keep in my backpack. So for dry sanding on the lanes, the CTG pads just cut so much better that they hold up longer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I think Luke you use Abralons most of the time at home.
Yeah, well,
just kind of because that's what you have more than anything else.
Kind of. Most of the time we use the React-A-Scuff. So if it's anything lower than that, I'm just going to put it on the 1000, the Diamond Dust pads on the resurfacing machine. And then above that, it's React-A-Scuff and just kind of adjust how much we use, basically. Yeah. If I just touch it with it, I can leave it a little bit rougher. And if I really get into it, I can get it a little bit more. And then just kind of a couple older Abralon pads. I need to get some other pads, but I don't really like to get stuff too dusty.
Yeah.
So old Abralon pads are just breaking the lane shine, which is really all I'm after if I'm on the lanes. And I do have some. And if I do need surface, I know that I'm going to need surface going into it. So I'm just going to put stuff on the resurfacing machine down there and take it to 1,000. Take them to 1,000 and
yeah, that makes sense.
I do need some other kind of pads, whether it's I can't use the Vice pads because I'm with Turbo, but I could use the True Cuts. And most of the time, if we're bowling, you're bowling too. And so if I actually need, like we dusted up Angel's IQ 78 filming the other day, you had the pads to use.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that was the set of Genesis pads. I haven't been super impressed with those, honestly.
And this question before we get out of here, what shape do you like to see? I've been kind of falling into the typical lefty thing. I had been kind of a higher rev lefty, or higher rev for a lefty, but it's not effective. It's not effective. And because I don't have the balls, like Trevor can get away with it because he's got the ball speed. I don't have the ball speed. And so I've been taking more hand out of it. And so I like to see an early smooth reaction that, is kind of halfway in between. I think that's why the ProMotion worked so well for me. And the Summit's kind of just like ProMotion enhanced. Yeah. It sees 30 feet and it kind of ignores what's going on the back end. Because typically on the left side, the back end's pushed down a little bit and then it just creates nightmares with angles. It's just... And people don't typically recognize that it's easy to hit the pocket on the left side on a house shot pretty well 24/7, but you lose the correct shape through the pins once they start transitioning. And so it's just the Summit rolls early enough that it kind of ignores the back end. It starts up earlier, and so it's not even going to be. And if it does start to slow down a little bit, then they're just mixers, or I can get on top of it a little bit more because it's still hooking at 30 feet and then just kind of walk it in. So
yeah, it's a very consistent shape off the end of the pattern that gives you a pretty consistent entry angle and roll into the pins, which I think makes your adjustment set a whole lot simpler. I'm a little jealous of that. The Summit's just way too much traction for me on the right side for the house shot there. But if it wasn't, that I would probably be doing the same thing with mine, honestly.
Yeah. So
I was practicing yesterday at Royal on Eiffel Tower, which is a 48-foot sport pattern, and the Summit looked good from like 12 at the arrows all the way to 22 as I broke the lanes down. So pretty impressive ball.
So all right. Well,
anywho, I think we got to get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotta
we
get
will
some
be
work done.
back next week. The
Indeed.
following, let's see, it'd be the 21st. So yeah, we should be then the 28th. So yeah, we won't have any holiday issues, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think we don't miss any weeks over the holidays this year
Mm-mm.
because Christmas falls on a Monday, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, Christmas is on a Monday. Yeah, Christmas and New Year's are on Mondays. So yeah, we won't.
Yeah.
We'll keep it rolling. So down to crunch time here. So yeah, if we can get out of here with a decent amount of points tonight,
Yeah. We'll be in
this
good
one,
shape.
we're all gonna have to show up on this one though. They're not gonna give us anything. So
This one's not going to be easy. And Trevor's bowling Kreitzer tonight, and Russ is bowling Team 14 Nick. So at least on paper, I'm expecting Russ and Trevor to both win.
yeah.
So could be interesting. We'll see what happens. But yeah, see y'all next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yep. Thanks, y'all.